Hey everyone, I'm going to show you through a game that I built around 30 years ago called Breed96. I built it in the summer of 95 and got it released in 1996. And this is a game here. It's on the Amiga 500. That's the Commodore Amiga 500. And Commodore Amiga 500 was an awesome gaming computer that I learnt to code on as well. Built this game out in a programming language called Amos, which was a basic derivative. In any case, it was at a time when the internet wasn't really around. It was only just coming out. I didn't actually have internet access at the time, but I was at the University of Newcastle and they had internet access, and so my way of getting this game uploaded was to a site called AmiNet, sort of like a software archive that I think is still around. You'd upload the equivalent of a zip file and people would be able to download it and use it if they wanted to. I actually had a fan who loved the app so much they actually built a website on it, and I was so impressed I actually just threw the URL up on here. I had no idea how to code a website at the time, completely foreign to me, but knew how to code a game. In any case, let's take a little look and give this thing a play. Alright, so first thing was selecting a race you would play the game with. So you can see a big influence from Star Trek and also Babylon 5. So Deep Space Nine had come out around that time. And so tried not to make it too Star Trekky, but Federation made it into there. Couldn't not do that. You select your race and then you begin building. So you've got a map that can scroll around by moving your mouse around, and you need to build stuff. So very much like SimCity in space. Drop on a few residential units and let's put on a power station as well. Awesome. And then we're going to drop some roads in between stuff. So yeah, big influence was SimCity. I love that game. There are a few other sort of space-based games that were a big influence on this one as well. And I was trying to build something that encompassed all of it, really. I liked the SimCity style game. I liked being able to do the whole resource management. There's all aliens and stuff that come out and fight you, and you've got to do things like researching. Let's see, let's research. I think you needed a law center or something was the first one that I'd complain about. So researching takes a while. You've got an advisor who tells you what you need. So apparently you need a food silo. Let's try that out. Eventually in the game you would actually be able to launch into space and then travel between planets and colonize each of the planets as well. So in-depth gaming. Here we go, got a message. Okay, my law center's ready. Let's go and put that somewhere, but let's research something else. Let's get an observatory going. Bring back memories. Alright, building a lot here. In any case, back in the day when this came out, so no internet access. We basically would find out about games on computer magazines, and I've actually got the magazine, or a couple of the magazines that these came out with. One of them is called Amiga Format, and if I remember right, sorry, beeping here, I'm trying to do a couple of things at once. Okay, observatory's ready. Let's drop that on. Cool. Alright. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, let's take a little look at a screenshot of magazines. Just a sec. Shush. Alright, let's bring this up here. Yeah, so this is how they distributed games back in the day, and this is how I actually got Breed onto a game as a distribution for a game. The Amiga format was like the premier sort of a magazine. There were a few of them around, and I managed to get Breed onto them by submitting the game and got the discs on there. So obviously Amos was one of the games that was on there. This was actually the magazine article that came out. And you can see here that sort of describes as a cross between Civilization, Dune 2 and SimCity. Yeah, if you wanted the game, send me $20 Australian, and they actually had my address at the time on there. So yeah, I'd have people sort of sending in a $20, and I get that either like check or cash in the mail, and would be going and yeah, copying a floppy disk with the full version of the game. Full version of the game had options to be able to colonize other planets, that sort of thing. A bit more of an in-depth game. And yeah, so stuff's happening. I'm getting distracted here. So we can bump up tax. There we go. Okay, I can see we got some traffic happening as well, which is cool. Yeah, so people would send me $20. I would copy a floppy disk, 3.5 floppy disk with the full version of the game on there. I would also send them a sort of a letter that went with it as well. So this is an example of the letter that I would send people. I had my old Newcastle EDU university email address on there, phone number and whatnot, long since retired, and give you a list of everything that was on the game, some tips and things. Yeah, give you options on how you can get updates as well. So I'd send out updates for our email if you had email. So asking for people if they had their email addresses. Yeah, so that's essentially what I did back in the day. Yeah, send it with a disk, and once you got the disk, you could load it up on your Amiga 500, get your updates, play a bit more. Quite often people would send in a little letter to me as well, and I'd write back. And so yeah, the reason that I actually put together this website was someone who'd written me a letter sort of like 30 odd years later, asking if I was the person who made this game, and they gave me a handwritten letter, sort of corresponded it a bit back and forth, telling each other about our lives at the time, which was quite different. This guy had moved from Germany to Denmark, and was just interested in getting back in touch. I was going through old discs. There we go, one of the bad guys. Alright, these guys shoot at you, and you need at least one of the disruptors to go and get them. If I remember right, you could also get this like alien droid thing you could use to attack them back. Yeah, right, we're in war with the Saipan. Yeah, right. Alright, probes ready. Yeah, so the droid we can research now. Alright, so space flight requires a docking port, so I'll have to build that next. So there's always lots of stuff going on in the game. And this is what got me sucked into it as well. SimCity games, space games, were some of the things I used to love playing back in the day. So getting this back up and going has been a bit of a joy. I actually got it going using a bunch of AI coding tools. I might show you guys just exactly how that works. There you go, got Android. You can move him around. Sweet. I still remember how to play this thing. Alright, let's get out of here. I'll show you some of the mechanics behind this and how we actually got it going. So I ended up using a project called Scripted Amiga Emulator, and this was a project to get the Amiga running. Might just close that noise out, that's annoying. There we go. Yep. Flip. Yeah, so this was essentially an emulator that runs Amiga games and whatnot, and it was based on binaries. So there's the ROMs associated with the Amiga, but also an emulator that runs that, if we take a look, does all of the sort of code running, so it can run code, all written in JavaScript. This was written in 2012, I think. So pretty brilliant project that I was able to use and get Breed96 running with. So Breed96, there's the original file, LHA, is the equivalent of a zip file, and so it is now able to run locally in this sort of browser environment because of this. The actual game itself, written in Amos, and I'll show you an example of that. Managed to find some of this stuff online. So Amos is basic, and you'd be writing sort of code like this, lots of gets, for loops, lots of variables, next, and repeat blocks, that sort of a thing. That's what Amos looks like. Unfortunately, the original source code for Breed96, that was lost many moons ago. Amiga lost it when I moved from Australia to the US. Yeah, floppy disks with source code, I wasn't going to be able to read those or anything. Hardware was completely obsolete, didn't have an Amiga 500 anymore. I remember the motherboard on that thing died quite a while back. Yeah, so let's get that docking port going. Yeah, so now it is built as an emulator in JavaScript, running the original basic code, and yeah, essentially running it in emulation mode with all the same sound effects and whatever else. Oh, we got some power failures. Alright, let's get some additional power going. Alright, power's up. Let's check out what I should be doing next. Alright, we need some more food generators. Got him. Yeah, so a lot of building. Got my docking port going. Alright, so still a lot more work to be done. Yeah, so this is running at breed96.tanoski.org, and you can play, essentially it's the original game starting up, and yeah, if you get a chance to play it, let me know what you think. It is 30 years old, so be forgiving. Nostalgic games are quite different. Amiga 500 games were, yeah, very different at the time, ahead of their time, I feel like, as well. And if you had a chance to play this game 30 odd years ago, and you get a chance now to play it again, let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and yeah, let me know how things go. Yeah, give it a play. If you get a chance, play it out. I know there were probably a few bugs in it in the day. I remember there were some issues with game saving, which didn't always work properly. You did have to remember to save the game. But yeah, enjoy. Pleasure to bring this one back to life.